and Jasmine Crockett. We'll discuss this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Doris Childress. We'll also be joined by Houston Emergency Center Director Roderick Jackson, who will talk to us about how the center stays ready when Houstonians need help the most.
Plus, we'll also chat with Seinfeld actor John O'Hurley. We'll discuss playing Jay Peterman on the hit show, hosting the National Dog Show, and his upcoming one-man show right here in Houston.
And as always, we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says as many as 3,000 federal immigration officers are either deploying to the Minneapolis-St. Paul region or already on site. NPR's Meg Anderson reports some residents are afraid to leave their homes.
In the Twin Cities, community members are standing guard outside of schools and daycares in case immigration officers show up. Many people are collecting food donations and giving rides to people who are afraid to leave their homes. One woman who asked to only be identified by her first initial, A, because she's afraid she'll be deported, told NPR she has not left her home in several weeks.
Me siento que ya no veo un futuro, que no veo.
A said she feels like she can't see a future for herself or her family. She's an asylum seeker with 2 young U.S. citizen children. And her fear of leaving the house is not unfounded. NPR has witnessed immigration officers stopping and detaining people of color seemingly at random on the street. Meg Anderson, NPR News.
Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado is speaking this hour at the Heritage Foundation as she seeks President Trump's support for her bid to lead her country. So far, the administration is backing the government once led by Nicolás Maduro until he was seized by U.S. forces earlier this month.
I am profoundly confident that we will have an orderly transition. This is a complex phase we are right now. Some of the dirty work is being done by them. But then the result of a stable transition will be a proud Venezuela who is going to be the best ally the United States has ever had in the Americas.
Machado praises President Trump. At the White House yesterday, she gave him her medal for the Nobel Peace Prize to the shock of many lawmakers and residents in Norway. However, the Nobel Committee notes Machado is still the 2025 winner of the Peace Prize. With Trump doubling down on the idea of U.S. control of Greenland, European soldiers have begun a military exercise in that region meant to show solidarity. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports a meeting between U.S., Danish, and Greenlandic officials failed to resolve disagreements.
France, Sweden, Germany, and Norway announced they would deploy military personnel in Greenland as part of a European reconnaissance mission to explore options for ensuring security in light of U.S. pressure. Retired French General Pierre de Villiers spoke about the mission on French public TV channel France 2. It's to give a signal to the international community that Europe is reacting and exploring its options, he said. De Villiers said the specialized Alpine soldiers would see what kind of cooperation can be done alongside Denmark and weigh whether Europe should send combat troops to protect the territory. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
It's NPR.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Houston ISD voted unanimously to officially sunset several magnet programs for 4 different high schools, Kashmir, Waltrip, Northside, and Heights High, at their board meeting Thursday night. The closure will affect graphic design programs at Kashmir, Northside, and Heights High, as well as the digital communications courses at Waltrip. Despite 5 nights of community information sessions, some residents say they felt unheard. Here's Tracy Lasuski speaking to the board.
Engagement is more than a tick-the-box exercise. It should be meaningful, thoughtful, and most importantly, two-way.
The closures will not affect any current students and are set to happen slowly over the course of 3 years. The Harris County Sheriff's Office has reported its first jail death of 2026. News 88.7's Sarah Gruno says it comes after 20 people died in jail custody last year.
55-year-old Linton Gallo Jr. was pronounced dead at St. Joseph Medical Center just after 2:30 p.m. Wednesday after suffering a medical emergency inside the Harris County Jail. The details of the medical emergency were not immediately clear. The Harris County Sheriff's Office said that he was originally arrested on criminal trespass and theft charges. Court documents indicate he was living with a family member at the time that he was booked, just 10 days before he died. 20 people died in the jail's custody last year, an uptick from 10 in 2024. Many of them had pre-existing medical conditions and suffered medical emergencies inside the facility. The jail has also been out of compliance with the state's minimum jail standards since last year. A recent state inspection found several deficiencies. I'm Sarah Gruno, News 88.7.
A former Texas Southern University basketball player is one of the athletes charged in a point-shaving scheme that impacted dozens of college basketball games. Omar Karesi was a player for Nicholls State University when he allegedly manipulated the outcomes of games in order to profit. He's one of 19 people charged for the scheme, which lasted from September 2022 until February 2025. In a statement, TSU says the activity detailed in the allegations did not occur while he was affiliated with their university. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. As a fiduciary, Fisher Investments is obligated to act in their client's best interest. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss. This is NPR.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manouse, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Don't you hate it when you're right only 33% of the time? I am here, yes, Ernie Manouse, and joining me today, because both Frank and Celeste have the day off, is my dear friend, my past, I don't want to say my old, my past TV co-host, and she's here with us again, Doris Childress. Welcome back to the mic.
Hey, Ernie, always glad to be here with you.
How are you doing?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good, pretty good. Happy New Year, because I haven't seen you.
Yeah.
So
did you make a resolution? I hear we're supposed to be done with them. If you haven't done them yet, they're already.
I just didn't do one this year.
You didn't do a resolution?
You know, I just committed to one word, and the word was enough. No. This is good. Okay. Enough, meaning I have enough stuff. I don't need to, shop all the time. Enough as in that plate's too big. You need to downsize it and eat only what you need to eat. And I have enough people in my life. Sometimes you don't need to add more.
Wow.
So enough. Everybody, think about that word.
Inspirational words. Talking about that. I don't know if you've seen the video going around. There's a big hot show out called Heated Rivalry, and it's about hockey players. And one of the actors got to meet Oprah. And so this video is going around. They were at CBS morning show, whatever, and he comes into the room and it's like, oh my God, it's Oprah. And she talks to him. She does her whole Oprah thing. And everyone's like, oh, isn't this wonderful? What I noticed about the video is that while talking to him at about, 45 seconds in or so, you can tell Oprah is finished with the conversation, but she doesn't say to him she's finished. She talks to him, she grasps his hand, and she leads him right to the door and sends him out of the room. It is so skilled in, I've had enough, that it's over. And I'm sure he walked away thinking that was the most amazing moment of his life and didn't even realize that Oprah had moved him on.
That reminds me of Queen Elizabeth. They said that she would switch the purse.
Right, when it was time.
It's time. It's time to move
they
on.
All have their
And then there's always the standard pat you on the back.
Yeah. Well, we were talking before the show started about what we'd been up to and stuff, and I had mentioned to you an old friend of mine that you know too, Jerry Jaggers. It's his birthday, and so I took him out last night, and we were joking about different things, and you reminded me of a story, and you asked, last time I saw him, I think it was when we did our Christmas special back on TV, and it reminded me of one of my favorite stories about him is he's going to sing Silent Night on our show, and we were having trouble with time, so they had to cut a verse. So Jerry didn't know what verse they were cutting, and I said, well, just read it off the teleprompter and just sing it along. So he does the whole song, and he's having trouble focusing his eyes. So he's trying to read the lyrics, and he's singing the song. And then afterwards he says to me, well, Ernie, where was the camera? I never saw the camera. And I'm like, the camera was right behind the teleprompter. The lens is behind what you're reading. You go back and you watch the clip, and he's singing, staring into the camera, like focusing in, unfocusing.
Very
focusing
intense.
In.
Silent
Extremely
night.
intense. But I wanted to wish my dear friend Jerry
Happy birthday,
very
Jag.
happy birthday, Jerry. Anyway, we've got a full show today, and we're very excited. One of our guests we have coming in is John O'Hurley, the actor.
I know. I'm excited about that because he has been in one of my favorite genres, but I'll wait until the interview so you can
It's funny.
find
Everyone's
out about
thinking,
it.
oh, Seinfeld. Both Doris and I have a lot of questions for him. Very few of them are Seinfeld questions, but of course, as always, you are welcome to call into the show and ask your questions.
And you'll want to call in and talk to him.
Yeah. 713-440-8870. You can also email us at talk@hellohouston.org or join us right here on YouTube. You know, Frank isn't here, but the weather still is. So we do want to mention that it's going to be a beautiful day with mostly clear skies. It's going to be high in the low 70s. Very nice.
You know, Houston has something for everyone when it comes to weather. You know, tomorrow I'm going to be a sweater girl, but today
I was
I'm
gonna
taking
say,
this
but
jacket
you
off.
spoke too soon because we're expecting a light freeze possibly Saturday night. How do we live
I'm
this
okay with
way?
that. You know, I'm a February baby. I love cold weather.
We love the cold. We do. Also, we're going to talk about a new documentary that's coming out that takes a look at football in this state before integration and what that looked like and some of the stories of the players that came out of it. That's coming up on the show. We got a great show for you today. So much coming, but as always, let's jump into our headlines. You've
Okay,
got the
let's
first
get
one
into the
for me.
headlines. We'll do that. Guess what? A new poll shows that Texas State Representative James Talarico is leading U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett in the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate. According to the latest Emerson College polling and Nexstar Media survey, Talarico holds 47% support compared with 38% for Crockett, while 15% of likely Democratic voters remain, undecided. The poll of more than 400 likely Democratic voters carries a margin of error of plus or minus 4.8%. Pollster Spencer Kimball says Talarico has momentum with Hispanic and white voters, while 80% of black voters support Crockett. Kimball added that men supported Talarico 52% to 30%, and women were kind of evenly split. The two candidates are set to debate in Georgetown on January 24th as the primary race heats up ahead of the March contest. So what are your thoughts? Are you surprised by the outcome? And who do you favor at this moment? You can call us at 713-440-8870. I think we'll get a lot of calls on that one.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, what's fascinating to me about this, and we even said it in our billboard at the top of the show, is that it's surprising results. And some people may say, why do you think it's surprising results? The conventional wisdom on this was saying that Jasmine Crockett had a bigger name recognition and would do really strong in the Democratic primary, but then has less of a chance of winning against the Republican challenger, whoever ends up getting that. Where Talarico would have a lower chance of winning the primary, but has a better chance of winning the actual race itself in November. So, or better than Crockett did. Still a couple points behind
You
the
just
others.
never know. All of these little scenarios, we just have to watch them play out because I was, thinking the same kind of way. But then I started seeing his ads and I started seeing momentum. And I'm going like, hey, this is up in the air.
Yeah, it is really surprising, I think, that he has pulled ahead in what looks like the primary race, at least according to this poll. You say you've seen his ads, and this is what's interesting to me. The ads that I've seen, and I don't know if it's just the way my algorithm is in social media, and this is what I get. It seems like every ad I see for him is not talking about positions or points or what he stands for. It's asking for money. Every video I've seen, every little story I see is, we've only got this many days and we've got to raise this much. We've got to raise this much. Where when I see Crockett ones, it's all about how she's going to challenge the establishment, what she's going to do. So I was really worried that it was going to shift from that he was going to have trouble getting his issues and his point of view out there, and he was going to be seen as just looking for money.
It makes you wonder, what do they know about the average voter?
Right.
Do we really pay attention to the facts, the issues, and what's ahead of us? Or is it just name recognition, personality, or person who's of your culture, your race you're just supporting? Because when you're looking at this, it's split down, Hispanic and white voters, Talarico, black voters, Crockett. So are we really paying close attention? Are we educating ourselves enough to have a decent and intelligent conversation at this point? So I would love to know what you are thinking, Houston. So call in.
Yeah, I'm just getting a YouTube comment in here. I like both candidates, but I think Talarico had better chances among Texas overall versus Crockett. I wish Crockett wouldn't leave U.S. as a representative. She is so needed there. That was a concern I had too. She's got a very strong position in the U.S. House, and leaving that to go for the Senate seat. If she loses the Senate seat, we lose her voice there. But
and what does she do next?
Right. But, in today's day and age, when it comes to politics, when it comes to candidates, somebody has thought all this out. This isn't just offhanded decisions she made. There's been a lot of research and a lot of studying done, so they probably know something
But
we
does
don't
the calculation pay off?
Well, do even the
for
polls
her
pay
and
off
for constituents?
Anymore?
Okay. Yeah.
Again, 713-440-8870. Do you think that Jasmine Crockett still has a chance to get they all still have a chance, but could be the nominee? Or do you think Talarico from this polling is going to snatch it and then go into the final race? We'll see. Give us your thoughts right now. 713-440-8870. Okay. Next story, a little close to our hearts. But when is too old, too old?
I shouldn't even laugh before I read this. But in total, this Congress is the third oldest in U.S. history, with an average age of 58.9, which is young for me, at the start of this session 1 year ago. The median age in the U.S. is 39.1. But of the 24 members of the silent generation now serving in the 119th Congress, more than half, 13, have decided to run again in 2026, according to a new NBC News review. Among Congress's 24 silent generation members, defined as those born 1928 to 1945, from the start of the Great Depression to the end of World War II, the average age is 83.8 years. Most are Democrats. Senator Chuck Grassley, who is 92, is the oldest, and Representative Dave Scott, who is 80, is the youngest. 7 members are 85 or older, but by the end of the year, the average age will be nearly 85. 10 members will be at the age or older, and 3 will be knocking at the door of 90. What are your thoughts? Stop snickering. What are your thoughts? Should there be an age limit? Call us at 713-440-8870. I don't know what to say.
My first reaction is I was surprised at 58.9 years. I thought that was pretty young considering
what I am now.
No, I was surprised. I thought because there are so many senior members. Part of the problem there is that to get power in the Senate and the House, to chair committees and all that, it's seniority.
Yes.
And so you want to be there a while to build your brand, your power base, and be able to be in leadership. And so of committees and such and such. And so there is a benefit to staying in because you amass more power and more control. But then again,
but do you get set in your ways? Are you open to listening to new voices? And are you alert to the trends and dynamics of the population and how they change?
Right.
So if you can do all of that, I say, and you're still alert, by golly, stay and do the job. But if there is a chance that you are not keeping up, not listening to the voices, and are a little slower at getting things, maybe become a mentor.
Yeah, that's a good point. I look at age in that you can't, and I always get angry when we do this, when we put age limits on things, because different people are different ways at different ages. And it doesn't matter. You say 80 years old, we have an image of 80 years old in our mind, and then you see Cher, who is turning 80. That's not the image we have of 80 usually. And so to say, well, this age is too old, it's more competency, ability to do the job. I think that's how we have to gauge these things. Some would argue that's why we have elections. And so it goes back to the voter. You have to be the one to decide when someone has aged out of their job. You have to be the one to say, you know what, they're not as sharp as they used to be. They're out of touch with what they're doing. They're just holding on to hold on. and we have to be more forceful. I saw a poll a while back that said people are much more likely to vote for an incumbent simply because we don't like to fire somebody. And so if somebody's an incumbent and they've been there, we feel familiar and comfortable, we'll keep them in office.
I don't know if it's so much as firing people. We're just not used to, or we don't like change. People will just say, I'm comfortable with this person. I know what I'm going to get. I can negotiate what I want and what he can give, because fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
I don't know what this new person is going to bring in. This young person may just blow it all up. So sometimes it's the vote of comfortability. That word. I always stumble over that one.
Yeah, and I think to myself, too, though, I also want someone who's had experience and knows what they're doing. So I'm not always fond of the newbie who doesn't know anything against somebody who's experienced and knows what they're doing. But then there comes a point, and it really came into focus with the last presidential race. And it just shows you the difference of age, because Trump and Biden are not that far apart in age, a couple of years. But how they're able to perform and function was drastically looked different. Now, behind the scenes, what they were able to accomplish and not accomplish, that's a whole other story. But as far as a physical presence at a certain age, it's a difficult conversation to have, but you know what?
So when do we get out of these chairs? Are we too old?
My career plan is to die on air.
You will drag us from these chairs.
Yeah, my theory is that it'll get us some great YouTube hits if it happens, and so that's why I'm sticking it around. Okay. We were talking about the Talarico Crockett race a few minutes ago, so let's grab some calls on that. We got some in here, but if you want to still call in and talk about the age of the Congress, 713-440-8870. Let's go to, is it Majid from Spring? Are you there? How was that? Oh, he dropped? Okay, then let's go on to Essie. Essie, yes, from Richmond. Essie, what's on your mind?
Yes, so I actually like both candidates. I love both of them. And when I heard both of them were going to run, I was like, oh, my gosh, this is going to be a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
But really, I would have loved Jasmine to remain in the House of Reps, because she's really doing a phenomenal job. Yeah. And going by how Texas is like a red state, I'm just so scared that we might lose her there and then also lose her in the House of Reps, But we'll see, fingers crossed. But I just wish she had stayed in the House of Reps. It's going to be a tight race between both of them. I love both of them. Right now, I don't even know who I'm going to vote for. But we'll see how it goes. Just my comment, I wish she had stayed in the House of Reps.
Yeah. Essie, thank you for calling. You bring up a really good point, too. I think they are two really good candidates, and I think both of them would serve the state really well. The question is, do we vote for who we like, or do we become more strategic in how we're voting and look at, well, to get this seat, you not only have to carry all of the left, you got to carry the middle and even some of the right. And which candidate has the ability to do that? Now, we can be short-sighted in thinking we know just on the surface, but we could be surprised. We have been surprised in a lot of elections of late.
But it is a good problem to have two great candidates.
Right.
But
can they win the state? You got to be strategic if you're trying to make a difference. If not, if you're happy with the status quo. Thank you. That was my problem.
That's your word.
So, okay, let's go back to the phone. 713-440-8870. Amy from Belleville is on the line. Amy, what's on your mind?
Hi, I'm just going to chime in a little bit. It's an embarrassment of riches to have these two talented candidates.
Mm-hmm.
We're so lucky. A good problem. However, I'm reflecting back to 2024 and Kamala Harris's struggle in the state, and I think realistically, and to your point about thinking strategically, I think Mr. Talarico has a better chance. And to echo Effie, I think from Richmond, Jasmine Crockett does wonderful things in the House.
Yeah. We hate to lose one seat in the attempt of another seat, but, I wish them both well, and I think I'm right there with you, Amy, on it. I just hope people look at it all. And I also hope if Jasmine Crockett gets the nomination, I hope some of us are being short-sighted in the way we're thinking she can't speak across the aisle, or at least her strength among her party would be strong enough to bring out voters from her party who don't traditionally vote, and that could do the lift and shift it there. Thank you very much, Amy, for calling. Let's grab one more call. It's Raymond from Katy. Raymond, what's on your mind?
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I would think that the terms, Congress and representative. They both should be 1 or 2 terms at the most.
Mm-hmm.
Because here's the deal. It's not about competency or age. It's more about the outside influence. If you have a representative or any lawmaker that is suddenly a puppet of, let's say, corporations or whatever, they will continue to get, since the terms are never ending, they will continue to get their funding. They will continue to be there, not for the people, but for whomever put them there. And that's what's happening right now. I mean, we have basically puppets in the law, and they don't answer to us. They answer to whomever put them there.
Raymond, thank you for calling and sharing your point of view. Term limits is an interesting thing. I've gone back and forth over the years on my position on term limits, how I feel. I feel that an election is deciding your term limit. You know, if somebody is serving their community really well and they're the better candidate than somebody else, keep them just because we've arbitrarily said this is the time it should stop. On the other hand, because they fall into groups that are going to support the money that's in politics, the power and all of that comes, the connections that are made, it's not always fair. And maybe to rotate it and have fresh weight. That's what George Washington felt back when he decided 2 terms was right for a president, because you pass it on to the next person that can do the job.
But we as voters just have to do our part. We have to be educated.
We do. And that's the important part right there. Always be educated. Doris, what's coming up?
Let's see. I think it's on you, Ernie. What do we have next?
All right, coming up, Roderick Jackson from the Houston Emergency Center will be here to talk with us. And then a little later, John O'Hurley's going to join us right here on Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Hi, I'm Lenny Ambrose from St. Arnold Brewing Company, proud supporters of Houston Public Media. Right now, with your $60 donation, you can choose tickets to News and Brews. This member-exclusive event takes place February 17th. Enjoy a pint, connect with fellow NPR fans, and meet the Houston Public Media newsroom in person. Select News and Brews tickets when you donate at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Minneapolis continue to protest the presence of ICE in their city after the shooting and death of Renee Good. President Trump is now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act. We're going to talk about the motivations of the protesters, President Trump's response, and much more. I'm David Green. Hope you will join Moa Lathy, Sarah Isger, and me for the next Left, Right, and Center.
You can hear it coming up Sunday at 5 p.m.
Houston Matters highlights the people, places, issues, and ideas that define Greater Houston. And we do it live on the air weekday mornings at 9 on News 88.7. But we know you're not always available then to listen. So subscribe to our podcast wherever you get yours, or find each day's program to stream online at your leisure at houstonpublicmedia.org. And reach out with questions or comments anytime. Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Hildebrand MBA at UT Austin's McComb School of Business, offering the Weekend MBA at Houston. Campus visit January 17th. Details at TexasMBAEvents.com. Make it here.
Houston Public Media is licensed to the University of Houston system, governed by the UH Board of Regents. Information about open meetings, dates, times, and locations is online at uhsystem.edu.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and guest host Doris Childress.
Okay, we are back. So, hey, when you dial 911 in Houston, the response doesn't start on the street. It starts behind the scenes at the Houston Emergency Center, where police, fire, and medical teams are activated in seconds. Back in 2003, the city merged those 3 operations into one unified command, a move used by many other major cities nationwide to help with quicker response and cut costly delays. And with nearly 3 million people living inside the Houston city limit, that speed can make all the difference. Joining us now is Houston Emergency Center Director Roderick Jackson to explain how HEC stays ready when Houstonians need help the most. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you for having me.
We're so glad that you're here. And if you guys want to join the conversation, you can call or text us at 713-440-8870. You know, when I hear Houston Emergency Center, I just get this disaster. That's the first word that comes to my mind, disaster. It's like a panic title. Do you feel that just being in that arena with the Houston Emergency Center?
You know, when you first get in a role like that, you start out feeling that way, but with all the training that we provide the telecommunicators, that kind of eases them into the control at that point where they feel a little bit better answering and speaking with the citizens during their emergencies.
What really goes into that training for the call? Because, you know, when you're in an emergency, I'm the caller, I'm feeling really crazy, frantic, and so on and so forth. What goes into getting that person ready for my trauma?
So we have, several weeks of training that talks about call types, where police or fire, medical call types, whether it's a heart attack, whether it's a shooting. We give them an immense amount of education behind that so they can remember these types of things when someone calls into the 911 call center. We do about 2-3 weeks of training, classroom, and then we do hands-on training where a certified training officer does about maybe 6 weeks of training to get them ready at that time.
You know, one of the things I always wanted to ask you guys is that what is the one thing we do that we should never do when we call in? Before we get into the nitty-gritty of all the things going on in the city and the real issues, what is it that we do that you guys go, oh, I wish you wouldn't do that?
Well, one, people call in for, cats in trees.
Still?
Yes.
Okay.
Sometimes noise complaints, they would dial 911 instead of the 10-digit emergency, non-emergency line. Those types of things there delay other immediate calls to come in.
Talk to me. Give that 10-digit number. What's the number for non-emergency?
It's 713-884-3131.
Okay. People should remember that when it's not.
Yes.
Now, in the practical world, I have been on the other side, and I have had to call 911. And when you do that, we forget that there's an entire city there. It's only about us in that moment. Can you walk us through what is actually happening when we call in? Because I even know from my point of view, they're like, well, okay, we're going to call. And I'm like, no, do it now. What are you talking about? Well, tell me that. The questions they ask upset and confuse me. I'm in an emergency situation. I'm in a panic. But you guys are doing something very structured, very correct to get us the service as quickly as possible. Correct. What should we understand and how should we handle those moments as the user?
So basically, you should remain on the phone, answer every question, and please do not hang up until told to do so, because those structured questions provide critical information to the field responders. So when you call 911, we are verifying the location, cross streets, and all of those things, and trying to get a synopsis of what's going on while help is being dispatched to you at that time. So that's why it's very, very important to remain on the line to answer each of those questions.
But in the moment, and you're going to educate us on this, I'm in a panic because whatever's going on, in my case, something's happening with my mother. I need to be dealing with her. I've put in my call. I don't want to stay on the line. I want to get back to the situation. Help me understand how to relax enough in that moment to give you what you need, but to take care of the situation I'm facing.
So basically, we are trained to try to get you to relax and calm down so we can give you critical instructions on how to assist your relative at that time, or if there's a safety issue. We give critical information, and if you are not willing to hear that, then that could also put your life in danger. And we're trying to make sure the danger is somewhat ceased until those responders get on scene.
And just curious, how nasty are we with you guys when we're on the phone? Because we're in a stressful situation.
Right, yes. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, we do have some citizens that are not so nice, but we teach our employees to expect that because it's their worst day that they're calling in.
We're not calling you on our best day.
No, and we understand that. So we teach them how to remain calm and just move past all of those things and redirect the caller with hopes of getting them the help that they need.
With a city our size, do we have enough people on the line to handle all of the emergencies that we have in our city? And if there is a shortage, how does that affect the population?
Well, we are constantly hiring, and honestly, Houston is very, very busy, and the emergencies are more complex. So to answer your question, we do have enough. However, when we have a car accident, we're going to get a multitude of calls just on that one accident, things like that. Doing a nationwide event, citywide event like Hurricane Harvey, we had everybody on board, and that still was not enough to answer the thousands of calls that were coming.
Do you guys have like a backup or a reserve team?
No, we have everybody on, all hands on
Everyone
deck.
that you have?
Yes.
And okay, wow. Because when you think about a hurricane, or even just recently, Verizon outage.
Yes.
How do you handle so many calls without a reserve team or being able to tap into another entity to handle the volume?
Well, we do sometimes utilize Harris County 911. The calls will roll over to them, but they will transfer them back. But as far as the staff at the HEC Center, we have the supervisors, the managers, and sometimes including myself, we'll get on the phone and work the phone lines to make sure that we get every call answered in a timely manner.
When we are back to being the call, and I'll get to my question in it too, we feel like we don't know what's going on the other side of the phone. And so what you've already assured us is that while they're being calm and talking to you, they are entering the information. They have dispatched it. They're not just talking to you first and then going to do what needs to be done. No. I'm curious, with the onset of everything we're seeing with AI, how is that changing the work that they do, that we do, that how this speeds things along? How is it helping?
Well, we are now in the testing phase of AI. Not sure when it's going to come online, but that will pretty much help answer some of those calls, those non-emergency calls, those repeat calls where, you had a minor accident and you're calling for a status check when the police will arrive. Well, that particular AI would be able to assist you on that, saying, hey, do you have anything more to add? Here's a probable ETA for police at that point in time. But it will help the load on some of those calls that's answered by the human being.
Now, callers are sitting down right now going, AI is going to handle my emergency, because to me, it's an emergency. And, what if this computer glitches or what have you? Where am I? So you're going to have that kind of pushback on that portion.
Of course, but we still will have that human factor in there. We are going to eventually launch that on the 10-digit non-emergency before we do the 911 emergency first. So we're going to train it. We're going to let it learn more and more and more before we even place. But that human factor will always be there.
Besides AI coming in, what other things are you guys doing to add to the infrastructure for a better product?
So we've been texting to 911 for about 7-8 years. We always say call if you can, text if you can't. And meaning if you can't text, can't call verbally, it's because you're probably in a situation where burglary, somebody entered your home. We would, rather you do a text versus that in that particular.
Text has the same priority as a call coming in?
Yes.
It's much the
Yes.
same. Celeste, who usually is in here today, she was concerned about when you call 911 and you get a voicemail. Does that happen?
So you will get, it's not a voicemail, it's called a random automated notification, or RAN. So when all of our trunk lines are very busy, meaning everybody is calling about one particular accident, whether it's a major fire, major accident, such like the Metro bus accident a couple of weeks ago, then all those lines would get tied up, and we are waiting to answer each one of those questions. So that RAN will say, hey, stay on the line. All agents are busy. Do not hang up. And so that's more than likely what she's hearing. There's no voicemail.
Okay, then hanging up and calling back, helps or hurts? Stay on the line, you're in priority.
Hurts. Stay on the line.
Okay.
Because then we're in, what is it? The
queue.
You're in the queue, and you're going back to the very beginning, the last of the queue.
Okay.
I was going to say, talking about that, what are the challenges you face right now? Especially, Doris was talking about the size of the city and all of that, and the resources. What do you face as your challenges? What is it you want to accomplish?
Well, I can tell you, for my employees, we have the mental health because that's very important. They hear all of the drama over and over and over. As they get off, they replay it in their mind. We are working with the City of Houston's EAP program to provide some of those mental health and well-being services, because this is a very, very stressful job for those individuals. And oftentimes they are working 8 hours, and then if another employee calls out, then we have to now delegate others to man those positions.
I was wondering, are you guys ready for our big event coming up? FIFA, that's a big event, and you're going to have some emergencies. Are you ready, and what is the plan?
Yes, we are absolutely ready.
He says it with confidence.
Very sure about that.
I am very confident about that because we this is one of the most diverse cities in the country. Mm-hmm. We have bilinguals inside of our center as well. We have language line service, the traditional kind, where we have a connection time of like maybe 5 to 10 seconds to answering for the language line, so we can determine whatever language is necessary outside of Spanish, because as you know, Spanish is predominantly here in Houston-Harris County. But for those individuals that are coming from in for FIFA, we do have the plan where we have language line. We also have other people that we're probably going to bring into the 911 center that speak those languages as well.
Wow. Well, thank you for all the work you're doing over there.
Thank you.
It is a lot, and I do appreciate even in those moments when we get panicked when we call 911, we have always gotten our service, and they have come, and so I know it's happening.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Roderick Jackson is the director from the Houston Emergency Center. Roderick, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
And coming up, actor John O'Hurley and musical director Steven Rawlins when Hello Houston continues.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're watching right now. So take the next step and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference. And what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a minute to make a big difference. So join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
Majority of men is inevitable. So when and why did it become something to fear?
Often those adverts would associate boldness with a very, very bleak future and only their product being there to save them from that future.
Laying bare our big feelings about boldness. Next time on Embodied.
Listen Sunday night at 8 p.m.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from arbitrator, mediator, and attorney Sylvia Mayer, providing in-person and video conference arbitration and mediation services. More information available at smayerlaw.com.
Alan Benninghoven and Dr. Michael Schaefer, proud sponsors of Houston Matters with Craig Cohen. Tune in Monday through Friday at 9 on News 88.7.
Support comes from Alley Theater, presenting Real Women Have Curves, the play that inspired the film. Following 5 women balancing family, work, and cultural expectations with humor and heart. Opens January 23rd. alleytheater.org.
Support comes from the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, presenting Art and Life in Imperial Rome, Trajan and His Times, exploring the impact Emperor Trajan had on art and culture during his reign. Now on view, tickets at mfah.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and guest host Doris Childress.
John O'Hurley is an award-winning actor, singer, comedian known for his work in TV, film, and Broadway. Maybe you know him as J. Peterman on Seinfeld. Maybe the voice of King Neptune on SpongeBob SquarePants. Maybe as a popular game show host with Family Feud. And to tell the truth, well, tomorrow night, January 17th, you're going to know him as the star of A Man with Standards. It is his one-man show. He's doing it live and in person at Doc's Houston, as I said, for one night only, performing songs from the Great American Songbook. He's going to also share memories and stories of his life and his career. And joining him in studio with us is Steven Rawlins, who's his musical director and a composer in his own right. Welcome, John. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
To Hello,
Thank
Houston.
Well, very nice to be here.
If folks want to join the conversation, and I'm sure they do, give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Don't hold back.
Don't hold back.
We
Doris
are not
and I
afraid
were
of anything.
talking, and we are absolutely in love with the name of the show, A Man with
Yes.
Standards.
Thank you.
So smart.
Wonderful
Thank
title.
you. Well, it's as I say, I was lucky enough to grow up in the period of the music and the mastery of the Great American Songbook, and I also was lucky enough to grow up around men and women who had standards. And
Did we used to have those?
we used to have
Used to
that,
have those.
ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we did.
Okay, Stephen, how good is he?
I'm still with him.
How long is the relationship?
It goes on till, believe it or not, I think the first show we did was the night after Seinfeld ended in 98.
What a friendship.
98.
Wow.
Providence, Rhode Island.
I was doing my first concert with the Rhode Island Symphony, and he had done all the arrangements.
Wonderful.
So when did music come into your life?
Well,
So
it's
many
always
of us
been.
think
It's
of
always
you
been.
as
Oh,
an
as-
actor, and they forget all the Broadway work and the shows.
Started off in opera, and I went from opera to Broadway to daytime. Actually, after that, I became Mr. Daytime on.
Oh, watch out, Doris is
that's,
armed for
you
this.
just,
She loves
you
her songs.
just said it. I am a soap opera
There
fan.
wasn't a show that I didn't do. Take off the air.
The villain, the professional. You.
I was the original. Believe it or not, I was the original twin brothers on daytime.
Yes.
On Loving. I was there on Loving. Yes, I was actually twin brothers, one of whom was 1 inch shorter than the other because I would take my shoes off.
Oh,
Wasn't I clever?
You were good.
Was I clever?
You know, a
You're
lot of
good.
people
I
will-
love the look. Wait,
Okay.
it's the look into the camera in the soap opera.
Yes.
You
As
had
the
it
camera moves in, you have that slow, and then you begin to slowly suck your cheeks in
You got
to make the bones kind of
yes,
pop out there.
yes,
Sure.
yes. This is why I still watch those shows.
Folks need to be
really
watching us on YouTube
Well,
right
it
now.
is, and it's the only. Think about this. It's the only medium outside of an actual film, a cinematographic film, where they do a close-up. Think about it. A sitcom doesn't do close-ups. They don't. They stay within the boundary, a certain boundary, but daytime television comes right in on top of you.
Right.
So
I
often
love it.
people joke
Look at the
about
smile.
soaps,
Yeah. Mhm.
but as an actor, oh my God, the work you folks put in that arena, the
it's,
amount of
when you were and when I was doing Twin Brothers, it was double the work because I had to do both characters. I had to do the kind of call and response. Can I tell you a funny story about
Please
that?
do.
All right, this is one of the funniest stories about daytime. Well, if I'm playing Twin Brothers, guess what I have to have? I have to have a body double, somebody who looks like me from behind. Now, at the time, I still had fairly dark hair. There were little wisps of gray in there, but mostly it was black. Jet black. And so they found a guy who was a bouncer down at the Limelight Club down at 19th Street in Chelsea in New York City. And he came in every day for about a year and a half, and he played my body double. Well, in the beginning, he's kind of a these, thems, and those kind of guy, and he was always talking like this. And then he would do my line, the other half of my lines. And so he was driving me nuts with this. I couldn't hear my lines being delivered that way because in parody. So I finally said to the producer, I said, please just tell him to be quiet. It's okay. It's easier for me to put the space in there than it is to have to listen to his soliloquy from the Bronx. So anyway, we go on, and we're maybe 6 months into the time together. And he says to me one day, he says, are they finished? I said, yeah. I said, I think we finished the scene. He said, good, I'm going to go back to my dressing room and finish my play. I said, what? I said, you're what? He said, I write a play. It's about the stories of my life. And I said, well, I said, well, good for you. It was Chaz Palminteri, and it was Bronx Tale.
Oh, wow.
Well,
that's
a good story.
You never know who you're working with.
You never know.
Yeah. You mentioned Limelight. You also spent time in Studio 54.
As a performer, not as a stripper. I don't know what's on the internet, but I was never a stripper.
We weren't going to go there, were we, Doris?
No, there was something that was flashing that you danced at Studio 50. I said, I don't think so.
Oh yeah, they have you as an exotic
I danced
dancer.
I was on. The first dancing I ever did was on Dancing with the Stars. That was it.
Really? I'm curious. Studio 54 has taken on such a legendary status in people's remembrances of it and what was happening. In the moment, was it that outrageous? Was it so?
Oh, well, you're not looking at a guy that would ever have been able to pierce the velvet rope. No, I couldn't get it. Oh no. And I also think that by the time I got to New York, that was pretty much a done. It was pretty much gone, and no one knew what to do with it. Then it became downstairs at
Below 54.
54 Below, and which we have done several times. I've done several performances there.
So jump me all the way to today, and Stephen, maybe you can help me with this. When putting together a show with someone like John, who's got such a storied life and career, how do you decide what makes it in, what doesn't make it in, what music, how is it all going to play together?
Well, that's largely John's idea. Because he had the concept for the show in the first place and songs that were specific to his life. And it's pretty much autobiographical, and it's pretty much chronological, which is, I've never worked with anyone else that's done a show that way.
Yeah.
And each song kind of has a story, the story with his life and then the next step and so forth. And so in this case, John put the ideas together. We're talking about another show in the future, and I've been throwing some input in that way.
Yeah. Is it songs that you have performed in your career, or are they songs that are reflective of your career?
Reflective, I would say. And songs that I would say both.
Yeah.
A little bit of both. The songs I chose because they underscored the stories of my life. And so many of these stories are when I was very, very young. And the strange things that I did. And I was an odd little boy. And
should we just let that sit there, Doris?
No,
or should we find out
coming
how
back to that.
it
Put a
was?
pin in it. We'll come back.
But it's and it's wonderful to go out and do it every night. I just love doing the show. It's wonderful, and it's always well received. It surprises people. I think that's the joy of it. People said, we came here not knowing what to expect. We thought, well, maybe you were going to do stand-up comedy for an hour and a half. But let me tell you, when I started doing the show, and this is a funny story, we did it. I get a call from Michael Feinstein, who is the cabaret king. He called me one day and he says, John, have you got a one-man show? And I said, well, of course I do.
Yeah, the answer in showbiz is always
of course I do. And he says, good. He says, I'm opening a new spot at the Hotel Nico in San Francisco. And he said, I'd love you to open it for me. And he said, it'll be on Halloween night. Imagine that. And imagine what Halloween is like in San Francisco. So I said, sure, I'll be there. I'll take it. I'll bring it. I'll dust it off and we'll have a great show. Well, my second phone call was to Steve saying, get over here. So it took us a weekend, really. The show was really put together very, very quickly. Steve had to do a lot of jumping around through hoops to do arrangements and keys and everything like that. But the show was wonderful, and I did the first show. But what I didn't do, what I failed to do, that every performer should always do, is get a running time for your show. Because I would have realized that we had a 2.5-hour show, and I got halfway through the show, and I said, I'm so sick of talking about me, I could throw up. And I'm exhausted by the end, and I said, how long? He said, well, about 2.5 hours. I said, oh, my God.
We did a little editing after that.
So we brought it back. It's about a little, not quite an hour and a half.
I want to just remind folks, we are speaking with award-winning actor, singer, and comedian John O'Hurley and musical director and composer Steven Rawlins. If you'd like to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. Sandy is on the line. Sandy, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Sandy.
Hi, I'm so pleased that you took my call. John, we absolutely adore you when you do the Purina.
The National Dog Show.
The National Dog Show on Thanksgiving Day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you are the main reason that we watch that.
Oh, you watch for the dogs. Be honest.
No, we're cat people. We enjoy the dogs.
The show is so good, even the cats watch it.
There you go. Yeah, but I've just found you have such a quick wit, and I'm curious. Is that just all off the cuff as you are doing the show?
It really is. It's just, stuff that occurs to us. The famous one that seems to have stood the test of time is when they brought the Old English sheepdog up to the judge, a woman, and she marches around to the back of the dog, puts all of her hands through the back of the dog, and of course this is a Old English sheepdog, so it's 80 pounds of hair and 2 pounds of actual dog. And so she's picking through all of the hair. And I said, David, what is she doing? He says, well, John, she's make sure that the hips and the shoulders align with the written specification of what the perfect Old English sheepdog should be. He says, because you can hide a really bad dog with a really good haircut. And I said, you're telling me I went to junior prom. And I said, oh, no. So it gets worse. She walks around to the front of the dog and picks through all of the hair on the dog's head. And I said, David, what is she doing now? He says, John, she's trying to find the eyes to gauge the attentiveness of the dog. And I said, really? I said, well, she picks through all of that hair and she finds only one eye. She's got the wrong end of the dog. Things I have no business doing. But
Sandy, thank you.
Sandy, thank you. That was such a
Please
nice
still watch.
You segued into my favorite joke.
That was good. That was good.
I will be killed by my producer if I don't bring up SpongeBob SquarePants because he loves you. And the thing that I think is funny, same thing that others have told me, by knowing where your fan base talks to you about, the stuff that interests them, you can pick their age. Because if some of them are going to come to you and be Seinfeld, some are going to be SpongeBob SquarePants, some are going to be dog shows. What are you finding now is what people come up to you for?
Well, Seinfeld always, because, remember that Netflix went and paid $200 million for Seinfeld again, and so what they did was they introduced the show to a whole new audience again. So I have 14 to 20-year-olds that are watching Seinfeld that never watched it before, and that's a huge number because they can binge watch now, which is what youngsters like to do. They want to watch on their time schedule rather than waiting for syndication to roll around. And also the fact that Seinfeld was on once a week, it may be must see TV on Thursday, but you had to wait a week. Right. Now you can binge watch it, and so I would say Seinfeld still takes it. The dog show is very popular. Dancing with the Stars still hangs on because that was that controversial first year that I did it, and eventually won, so that all was right with America.
Oh yeah, they straightened themselves out.
In your stories in the show, we know you talk about yourself and you make fun of yourself and the different things that have happened. Are we too serious in America right now to just laugh at ourselves?
Yeah, I think that we have become so brittle that we have lost the ability to be silly. And silliness is the highest and most interesting form of comedy. To be able to make fun of yourself is the greatest joy, and it's absolutely the most freeing of things. To be sarcastic at someone else's expense is painful, it's heavy, it's weighty, and nothing truly ever gets accomplished.
Is there a certain age you get to where you can actually laugh at yourself, you think?
Yes, and it's a very good point. It's a very good point. I think it certainly is a maturing of the individual to say that you can make fun of yourself, because you're confident in who you are and what you are, and it's like, hey, we're all just bozos on the bus. That's all we are.
Well, bozos, I'm going to say goodbye to you right now because you have a show to do tomorrow night.
We do.
Got to get you over there, John O'Hurley and Steven Rawlins.
We're out of time. I hate that.
I know. We'll be over at Doc's Houston Saturday night, January 17th. For
Which is a great
show.
place.
It is a great place.
Houston, you're going to be very proud of this place.
John O'Hurley, a man with standards. Go see it. Thank you both for coming in.
Nice to be here.
We've got another hour of Hello Houston coming up right after a break. Don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manouse, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston Daily Newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Hildebrand MBA at UT Austin's McComb School of Business, offering the Weekend MBA at Houston. Campus visit January 17th. Details at TexasMBAEvents.com. Make it here.
Nice day today. We'll get up to about 73. Lots of sunshine, and then tonight mostly cloudy, a low near 47. Tomorrow, another nice day, not quite as warm. Lots of sun and the high near 55. Currently, it's already 73, and this is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston. News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, President Trump is threatening to invoke the rarely used Insurrection Act in Minnesota. Share your thoughts on this and more of today's top headlines. I'm Ernie Manouse.
And I'm guest host Doris Childress. We'll also talk with Texas Hall of Fame sportswriter John McClain and film producer Rob Lynch about a brand new Texas football documentary.
Plus, we'll also share a list of events happening this MLK Day weekend in Houston for our regular Friday feature, Last Minute Plans.
That's right. We'll have all of that, and we want to talk to you, so give us a call or text us at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is mentioning tariffs as he says he may punish countries that do not support U.S. control of Greenland, a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark.
I may put a tariff on countries if they don't go along with Greenland, because we need Greenland for national security, so I may do that.
A bipartisan group of congressional members met with Danish and Greenlandic officials today to express that Greenland is an ally, not an asset. Meanwhile, with sovereignty on the line, several European countries have dispatched troops to Greenland. At the White House today, President Trump held a rural health care roundtable as he faces midterm election year criticism for his cuts to Medicaid. He announced a $50 billion rural health program. Healthcare priorities President Trump has outlined this week do not include a repeal of the Affordable Care Act, but as NPR's Selena Simmons-Duffin tells us, one key idea could seriously weaken the health insurance marketplaces.
A fact sheet about Trump's healthcare plan says it would, quote, execute the president's vision to send money directly to the American people. Cynthia Cox of the nonpartisan health research organization KFF says the details are sparse.
What it seems like is this idea of turning the financial assistance that's available for Obamacare enrollees into essentially cash that they might be able to use to buy health insurance that is not compliant with the Affordable Care Act.
She says that could cause ACA marketplace premiums to skyrocket and weaken the markets. The White House hopes that lawmakers will turn these ideas into a bill, but did not set a specific timeline. Selena Simmons-Duffin, NPR News, Washington.
During Friday prayers in Iran, Ayatollah Ahmad Khatami says all detained protesters should be put to death. His sermon was carried on state radio. President Trump has warned the deaths of anti-government protests in the Islamic Republic could lead to U.S. military action. The United Kingdom's deputy prime minister has arrived in Ukraine. The visit was not previously announced and timed with the anniversary of what the UK calls a 100-year partnership with the country. Here's NPR's Lauren Frere.
During Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy's visit to the capital, Kyiv, the UK government announced another $27 million in funds to repair Ukraine's energy infrastructure. The Ukrainian energy minister says Russia has attacked every single one of the country's power stations in a strategy Ukrainian officials call weaponizing winter. Russian attacks have left hundreds of thousands without heat or lights during one of the coldest Ukrainian winters in years, with temperatures around 0 Fahrenheit. Meanwhile, Germany, France, and Italy have called for a resumption of direct talks with Moscow over Ukraine, but the UK says it opposes that. Lauren Frere, NPR News, London.
From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. The Houston Housing Authority will begin leasing apartments located near a former incinerator after state environmental regulators found the land does not pose a risk. News 88.7's Natalie Weber tells us more about the state's findings.
In 2024, Mayor John Whitmire asked to halt plans to lease the point at Bayou Bend. The mayor raised concerns about incinerator ash found on a nearby undeveloped property owned by the Housing Authority. After environmental testing, officials announced that the ash was not also present at the apartment complex property. This is Jamie Bryant, the Houston Housing Authority CEO, speaking during a Thursday press conference.
We have done the due diligence. We have worked with the environmental experts. We have seen the science.
The Texas Commission on Environmental Quality is requiring remediation of the undeveloped site where the ash was found. It also fined the Housing Authority for violations related to the site. I'm Natalie Weber, News 88.7.
The Harris County Sheriff's Office is investigating the shooting death of a man who was allegedly pretending to be a police officer. Assistant Chief John Nanny says officers were called to Channelview around 4 o'clock Thursday afternoon by a woman who said a man was acting suspiciously while posing as a police officer. Officers asked the man for identification when the situation escalated.
The male became increasingly evasive and suspicious, and at one point stepped back and produced a handgun. Preliminary information indicates that the male fired at the deputies, who returned fire and took cover.
The man died at the scene. None of the officers were hurt. The Houston Texans are gearing up for their second-round playoff matchup against the New England Patriots this weekend. The Texans have exceeded expectations this year after starting off the season. They lost the first 3 games of the year but are currently on a 10-game winning streak, including their last playoff win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The game this weekend will be on Sunday at 2 o'clock. It's 73 degrees and sunny on the University of Houston campus, mostly cloudy tonight with a low of 47. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Capital One, offering their premium travel card, Venture X. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. Details at CapitalOne.com. And listeners like you who donate to this NPR station.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manouse, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
And we are lying to you again. It's just Ernie Manouse, but to make up for Frank and Celeste, we have Doris Childress here
Hello,
in-house
Ernie
today.
and friends.
Doris. It's great to have you here. A lot of folks that are just tuning in and they heard us in the first hour may not know. So you and I worked together on TV on Channel 8 for maybe 10, 12 years.
Yeah, we did.
We did Weeknight Edition, and then that became Weekday, and then a series of specials and one-offs and things for a while, and moved back and forth in between different programs.
And then you came back and you helped me with Connection. I did a little bit after you decided, I'm going to give it to Doris.
Give it to her. I went over and was doing the after party and interviews,
Yes.
and you took over Connection. And so, yeah, we've been working together for years, and so it's always a joy to get to share the mic with you.
Yeah, you're like family.
What do you mean, like?
Well, you are family.
Should I tell my
Wrong
favorite
word.
story? Oh, I've told it before.
You've told it before.
Yeah,
but he's been at the kids' christenings and everything. They still call him Uncle Ernie, so we're good.
I'm a horrible uncle who never shows up. But you know what? We like you showing up, and we love it when you watch us over on YouTube. You can get there by going, as you heard, to HoustonPublicMedia.org and just clicking that purple box there. Or if you're on YouTube, just look for Hello Houston. You can find us. We're streaming live every day. You can see Doris and me. Talking about being able to see us, we were just talking with John O'Hurley, who was here. You probably know him best from Seinfeld. And Doris and I were talking about soap opera acting and being in the world of soaps. And Doris is a huge soap fan. We were talking about, he was saying about the close-up. And you were saying you can do the soap
I can
opera.
do the look. If you're on YouTube, listen up, look up, because I'm getting ready to do it. I will take my glasses off, and I'm talking to Ernie, and then there's this intense scene.
What are you going to tell me? What's the intense moment?
You'll never know what happened. And then I do the look. And I just did it. Hey, I mean, hire me now. I'm watching Beyond the Gates. So if you're watching, I can do the look. I'll come in and do it for you guys. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Beyond the Gates. If you need would you be a villain or would you be
I'd like to be a villain because I'm such a sweet person in life.
Is that it? Okay. Good to know. Soap operas, they kind of lost their luster. They were so big, 80s, 90s even, and then they kind of have...
Hush your mouth.
Oh, sorry.
Soap operas are still really good. I want you guys to know, Ernie is so sweet. He went to New York, and this is one of my favorite Christmas gifts. Ernie went to New York, and he went on the set of my favorite soap opera, The Guiding Light, and he brought me back The Guiding Light, an original script, and he put it in a big Tiffany's box. And every Christmas, it is sitting front and center in my china cabinet. So I just want you to know I cherish that gift.
Well, and the funny thing about it is that I put it in a Tiffany box. I'm sure you were so disappointed when
I knew Tiffany was not in there. I knew it was something good. At first, I thought it was a prank, but it was something really,
it was
really
a shooting script from the day we visited the set.
It was great. I still thumb through it. The pages are kind of dry, but I keep it preserved.
It's amazing, too, when you look at the size of a script, and they shot those every single day, and those casts had to learn those lines. They still do on soaps. It's an amazing... My hat goes off to actors who work in the soap element.
Daytime and the nighttime soaps, because you remember Falcon Crest and all. I still call those soaps, but those were good.
Anyway, something else is good. It's a beautiful day outside, mostly clear skies, highs in the low 70s. But dun dun dun, a light freeze is possible Saturday night. If you're watching us on YouTube, we get the cityscape up on line because we have our rooftop camera shooting downtown.
Very nice day.
It's going to be a nice day out there. Enjoy the day, but enjoy the rest of our show. Still to come today, we're going to be talking about a new documentary with Texas Hall of Fame sports writer John McClain and the film's producer, who are here to talk about football in Texas before integration and what we learned from that and the characters that came out of it.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting. And of course, our weekend plans. So if you have plans for the weekend, start sharing them with us now. You can email us at talk@hellohouston.org or call us or text us 713-440-8870. What do you have planned for the weekend? We'll be telling you what we know is going on, but it's great to hear from you too. Okay, into the headlines. What's your first story for us?
Okay, we've got a few headlines coming up. In a social media post yesterday, President Trump said he would institute the rarely used Insurrection Act if the anti-ICE protests in Minnesota did not end. The law, which dates back to 1807, gives the president the power to deploy the U.S. military to states to stop an insurrection or armed rebellion. Though Trump threatened to use it several times in his first term and has again in his second, the Insurrection Act has not actually been invoked since 1992, and that was when then-President George H.W. Bush used it to quell the L.A. riots at the request of local authorities. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz responded to Trump's threat by asking the president to turn the temperature down while urging Minnesota residents to protest peacefully. What are your thoughts? Should Trump use the Insurrection Act? We want to hear from you. Call us at 713-440-8870. Oh, you took a deep breath.
I talked about this yesterday on the show. I am just so heartbroken about what's happening in this country and that we're at this point and what's going on. Should the president be invoking the Insurrection Act? Absolutely not. That's not where we're at. When you even make the reference to the last time it was used was the L.A. riots, a whole different situation. The L.A. riots, city was burning. People were destroying property. People were getting injured in massive numbers. It was not a protest that had moments got intense. It was an ongoing, very aggressive situation, which is not what we're seeing in Minnesota.
I guess I'm wondering now in our country what constitutes a peaceful protest. Or are there going to be rules as to how we should conduct ourselves when we want to protest and let our voices be heard? Or all of a sudden, are we going to look up and we can't do it at all?
It is so disturbing. That's all I can say.
I really want to hear from Houston right now about this topic. Please call in and let us know what you're thinking.
713-440-8870. What to you defines what is a peaceful protest today? And how do you protest in today's day and age? If you are seeing something that is outrageous and wrong, we are talking about having someone on the show that can actually talk about what you can and cannot do in these situations, what you should and shouldn't do. And there's a whole thing about they can't enter your house. If they come and knock at your house, do not respond. Do not say anything, because any kind of verbal reaction gives them the scent of consent, and if you remain quiet, then they cannot enter your home.
There's
unless
just so
they
many
have
rules and tips that
Right.
I at this point I can't keep up.
We're going to try and get that. Nicole Joe online says, so true, Doris. They are agreeing with your concern here. What do you think about all this? What do you think about what's going on in Minnesota?
I'm just scared. I mean, to say the least, I am scared that our voices are being quelled, that we can't just speak up, have an opinion, can't protect our rights. Just can't speak and have an opinion at all. That's my biggest concern. And I don't want the public to become so afraid of law enforcement, because we need law enforcement and we need to keep building trust. And if the trust is broken in these moments and in these beats in history, then I think our society is really in ruin. And I don't want to sound like doomsday, but if you keep watching, things are really serious. And I don't think we can be quiet about it at this point.
And you think back to the guests we had in the first hour talking about the Emergency Response Center here in Houston, and that in those most troubled times, that's where we have to turn. And so we have to have faith in our law enforcement, in our security, in our emergency response folks, that they are there to help and do the right thing. There's nothing worse than being scared to call when you are in need. And situations like what we're witnessing right now definitely fosters distrust in our systems. And we need that to be there. We need that back.
You know what I think about? I think about little kids. I remember when I was a kid, and you know how you had career day, and you had all these figures and images, and you see the heroes as being your doctors, your lawyers, your police officials, your fire people. And I don't want our kids to be so jaded that they don't get that same feeling of trust with the people who are supposed to protect us and help us along the way in life. So how do we navigate the message that these are the people who help us, and then the images and the discussions and the debates and all of this that's happening currently in our
And there
nation.
comes a responsibility within those services to make sure they have the best equipped and best qualified people out there on the street dealing with folks. And we know every so often a bad egg can be in any group, and we can't define an entire organization by the worst of it. You know, you can't define your family by the worst family member. You and I know that more than
yes,
most.
we do.
Let's go to the calls. 713-440-8870. Thomas is on the line from Deer Park. Thomas, what's on your mind today?
Yes, sir. Thank you for taking my call. No, just what was being said earlier about how we're wanting to invoke the Insurrection Act, and these protests that's happening in Minneapolis and in Minnesota. It just bothers me that we're trying to talk about invoking the Insurrection Act, but January 6th is now being respawned as if that was a peaceful protest. That's really what's bothering me right there, and when clearly it was not. We have all the footage and all the evidence to showcase that. That's pretty much my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in, Thomas. It is interesting when you see what happened in Minneapolis last week, and then and the woman being shot in her car for, I'll just leave it at that. And then you look at footage from January 6th, and you hear rhetoric saying how what we saw on January 6th was a peaceful protest of loving people who just wanted to visit the Capitol.
How do you reconcile those
And then you
images
see
and
a
those
woman
stories?
who is a soccer mom and whatever in her SUV saying, and she's saying in some of the videos, I'm pulling out. She's trying to get out of the situation. She says, I'm not angry at you. And that's the woman who's shot and killed. And she has become the target of the vitriol from a certain portion of the population. It just, I have trouble with understanding all of it today.
Yeah, there's a big conversation about January 6th now and how all of these things are balancing out and the messages that are being sent out. I guess it's the person in power controls the narrative.
Yes. 713-440-8870. Diane is on the line from Pearland. Diane, what's on your mind?
Hi. Well, I just have this is my observation. we have a narcissist who is currently in office. That can be good or bad depending on how you look at it. But in dealing with someone like that, my thought is if people in Minnesota, for example, since they're the target, would just stay in their houses and feed each other in whatever way they need to, just protect each other, this would all go away because he would have nobody to fight. Because my biggest fear is that if he creates civil unrest, the government does, then if it's true that through the Constitution he can be elected or stop elections, that's the biggest fear. So I think that people need to calm down, possibly, just a theory, and just take care of each other and let this settle down so that he cannot create a worse situation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it.
Yeah, thank you for your call and sharing that with us. 713-440-8870. Tracy is on the line from Galveston. Tracy, what's on your mind?
Well, I wouldn't call them peaceful protests, number one, because there doesn't seem to be anything that I've seen that is peaceful. And then, people run the risk of getting a felony, if they smash a car window or something like that. And if you have a felony on your record, that's going to damage your ability to work in the future. Who wants to hire a felon? Not many, unless it's some sort of, below the legal means of employment. So I personally, and I think they're being funded, paid protesters. I think there's been rumors about that. And the lady that got shot, spent all day trying to block them. And then she was from out of state, I believe, as I read it. Did you read about that?
Actually, I do believe she lived in the neighborhood in which she was shot in, is my understanding of the situation. And I hear people talk about the idea that they are funded protesters. But funded, even if there were, and I don't have anything to believe that they are, you can see how a community can become outraged by what's happening. You can see how an anger can grow in a community. You don't necessarily need paid protesters to be upset by what's happening in their own community and to react this way. And so I'm curious, Tracy, what your thoughts are about how does a community express its concern if they're upset in a moment like this? How should they react? Your thoughts?
Well, I guess, not violently, and not. The thing about an ICE officer or any human being is they're not Ottomans, they are human beings, that are doing their own job, and they've been trained to find people that are felons, illegally in the country. That's the point of it, I think. And, maybe it may not be perfect, but to shout and scream and threaten and throw firecrackers at, they're just your fellow humans that are doing work, So I don't see it as a really noble way to resist, what's going on.
Yeah. Tracy, it's a difficult situation. Thank you for calling and sharing with us. We're going to move on to 713-440-8870. Victor from Pearland is on the line. Victor, your thoughts?
I'm along the lines that if you protest, it has nothing to do with making contact. You use your voice, you use signs, you use march, you use gatherings, and ultimately you use your vote. But never should there be any contact with an arresting officer.
Victor, thank you for sharing that with us.
And that's a good step-by-step guide. You know, be there, be present, have your signage, use your voice, vote. I was just asking, what is the peaceful way? And I think he just gave us a nice formula.
My British computer guy, who of late, the two of us have been very much in sync. He's over on YouTube. He's one of our YouTubers. He says, peaceful means non-violent. You can be as loud as you want. Paid protesters? Whatever, dude. Show us the proof or quit promoting a false narrative. Vandalism does need to stop, though, for sure. And that was his comment on it. Back to the phones, 713-440-8870. Let's grab Jack from South Houston. Jack, what's on your mind?
Yes. What's on my mind is
I agree with the protesters. We have that right. But also, I was making the comment that the Trump is telling the people in Iraq to continue protesting for what they believe in. So the people here in America are protesting for the things that we believe in. And also, I understand about the Marines and the Army and all that. Those people are trained to fight. Mm-hmm. So when people, guys like those, which I have a lot of respect for, they want to go fight. You know what I'm saying? They've been trained to do that. And lately, they haven't been any wars. So it's like they say that testosterone is in there. It's like a boxer. When you train to box, you want to go box somebody. And I see that's what's going on, and the soldiers or the National Guard, we're all American, and that's what I see. Their attitude, their behavior on when they're reporting the news, the way they push people around, that's very aggressive, and that's what I'm saying. They're trained to do that. They want to fight. They're looking for a fight. And that was just my comment. Thank you.
No, thank you for sharing that. We'll grab one more call here, 713-440-8870. Roger, what's on your mind?
Yes. Hi, Ernie. Thanks for your informative show. I was just in Germany for a commemoration of the Holocaust and my family's participation in all that. And I see great similarities between the overreach of ICE and the Trump administration and the diminishing of our rights and democracy's, struggle to maintain order. Our founding fathers would be rolling over in their graves if they could see what is happening now. Anyway, I could go on, but I know you're pressed for time, but thank you.
Roger, thank you for calling and sharing with us. I saw somebody did say in our chat, and I've lost it now, but it was just vote, vote, vote. And I think that goes back to the point that we need to take the power across the country by voting in the people that represent the way we want to be governed, the way we want to be heard, the way we want to be understood. And that's in all of our own hands.
But first, educate yourself on the issues.
And the candidates.
And the candidates.
Know who you're voting for.
You just can't scroll Instagram or what have you and take that at face value. You really need to do your research.
713-440-8870. I said we were going to wrap, but we have one more. Let's grab Ellis on the line. Ellis from the Heights, what's on your mind?
Hi. I just wanted to, first talk about I'm so grateful for everyone in Minnesota who is protesting and, trying to protect their neighbors. About the other caller who mentioned protesters being paid possibly, I think that's hilarious, and I wish we were because I have student loans to pay off. But I would never advocate violence, but I've seen, first of all, a lot of the time it looks like, if anything, it's the federal agents who kind of start things, especially when they're taking innocent people off the street. But I don't have an answer, but I always am wondering, how far can peaceful protests really get us? At what point do we need to do more than that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Alice, thank you for your thoughts on that. I want to go back to a couple little comments. We got one comment that came in on YouTube. Voting is a long-term solution and not a short-term to help people right now. And of course, I agree with that, but it is a long-term solution that we need to start now in this moment. We should have started it long ago.
To see change in the future.
And you've got to.
Got to.
Yeah. Then I see one more in here. Yeah. We were taught that protesting is our right, but I know many people who are afraid of protesting because of the possible retaliation and aggression from law enforcement, which goes back to your point you were talking about. You shouldn't be scared of law enforcement, but law enforcement shouldn't be putting them in a position that they scare us. And ICE agents and we talked about this yesterday a little bit, and I'll wrap on this note, is that we see videos of this aggression that seems out of control. And I try to make the point, those are the videos we see. We don't know how many other are happening that could be conducted in a much more rational and reasonable way. But beside all of that, the ones that we're seeing should not be happening. It should not be
Correct.
that. We are not in war with ourselves. We are not attacking ourselves. If there is a problem in this country with the status of some people, that needs to be corrected. Absolutely, I'm with you. But the way it's being done does not seem the answer. Some will argue, well, the way it was being done before wasn't the answer. Okay, then maybe neither of these are the answers, and there's another solution. But we've got to stop this violence.
You know, it goes back to our original conversation we had back in July. Where is the basic humanity?
Yeah.
Because in every job that you do, there should be some humanity.
We're going to take a quick break. Coming up, we'll talk Texas with Texas Hall of Fame sports writer John McClain and film producer Rob Lynch about a brand new Texas football documentary right here on Hello Houston on News 88.7.
Hi, I'm Michael Schaefer. My partner Ellen and I have been proud supporters of public radio and TV for decades.
We really would be lost without our daily fix of unbiased national and local news, cultural programming, and great entertainment.
But with recent federal defunding, stations like Houston Public Media face real challenges.
Now's the time to step up.
Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Thank you.
Week on the Sam Sanders Show, it's a new year. Can the same old Hollywood survive it?
Trust artists, take chances when they have big ideas. If you can backstop them with money and the right marketing campaigns, people will go to movies.
I agree.
That was a good one. I was only half listening because I was trying to think of my second prediction.
Hollywood predictions for the year ahead. Plus, will any of us survive award season?
Sam Sanders Show, coming up Sunday evening at 6.
We know you value Houston Public Media. That's why you're listening right now. Take the next steps and become a new member of the station you rely on. Every gift makes a difference, and what matters most right now is supporting the station that brings you the news and information you rely on. It only takes a few minutes to make a big difference. Join as a new member today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Hildebrand MBA at UT Austin's McComb School of Business, offering the Weekend MBA at Houston. Campus visit January 17th. Details at TexasMBAEvents.com. Make it here.
Support comes from Smart Financial Center in Sugar Land, presenting Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass, celebrating the 60th anniversary of whipped cream and other delights. Saturday, January 17th. Tickets at smartfinancialcenter.net.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and guest host Doris Childress.
And we are back. Today, we're getting a preview of a new documentary, The PVIL Story, Separate but Equal. It looks back at Prairie View Interscholastic League, the black high school football league that existed in Texas before desegregation. Joining us are John McClain, longtime football journalist, retired writer for the Houston Chronicle, Hall of Famer and host of the documentary, and Rob Lynch, a producer of the documentary. They're here to share the story of a league, its athletes, and a lasting impact on the game. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
This is an exciting project.
Yeah, and if folks want to join into the conversation, please do. Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
This is really good because we were talking a little bit earlier before we came up on the show. We hear bits and pieces about each of these players, but having you guys call it all together in one documentary is great. What sparked your interest in getting this story told?
It was Rob's idea. We had worked on a documentary with director Mark Burns about Bum, Wade, and Wes Phillips. Phillips' 3 generations of excellence. It was done, and then I suggested the Old Southwest Conference. Rob said, what about Prairie View Interscholastic League? And he started telling some stories, and I said, where'd you hear those? He said, from Joe Green and Kenny Houston, 2 first-ballot Hall of Famers who are brother-in-laws. And I thought, wow. So that's how it all got started. Rob's worked so hard on this thing for about 16 months. and it is a labor of love.
I believe it. Rob, what was your process of getting all the stories, finding the players, getting those hidden gems?
Well, there was a lot. When we first started this, we thought we'd interview a bunch of football players, great football players, and let us tell their story about what it was like playing in the PVIL. Well, as we went on, Mark Burns, the director, who is Magic, told us that we can't tell this story unless we go back to how we got here. And that would end up being Plessy versus Ferguson. We go all the way back to Brown versus Education, because that is how we got here. So it's basically a history movie told by Hall of Fame football players. And when we would talk to these guys, we'd find out that, yeah, they were very mistreated. The equipment they had was far below par. But the communities and the families that they grew up in was just fascinating. That what they grew up in, there's no bitterness in this film from any of these guys. So it wasn't hard to get guys to talk to you about how they grew up.
We're bitter from hearing their stories.
Yeah.
Scott Nethery, who's executive producer, former executive with Atlanta Braves and a businessman here, we brought him in, and he was fascinated by the project. Most people didn't realize there was an all-white organization, the University Interscholastic League, playing high school sports, and there was the all-black Prairie View Interscholastic League playing high school sports. They didn't compete. The players we interviewed, and we interviewed what, about 40?
40 players, yeah.
They knew there was a white organization playing sports, but they didn't care. They were just trying to win theirs. And it's about politics. It's about race. It's about great football and a lot of Hall of Fame players. The last three who are surviving are Mean Joe Green, greatest defensive tackle in history, Kenny Houston, greatest strong safety, and Emmett Thomas, one of the greatest defensive backs.
Yeah, Mean Joe Green, my alma mater. I went to UNT. And so, one question I wanted to ask you about.
Congratulations on your season.
Yes. Mean Joe Green. He got that term, it was connected with us being the Mean Green Machine. Mm-hmm. But did it play against him being a black man and always being stereotyped as being aggressive? How did he handle balancing Mean Joe Green, the person, and Mean Joe Green, sometimes a stereotype, and then the athlete?
Well, and Joe tells the stories. Even in high school, he was Mean Joe. But one of the stories and we didn't see this coming. We were interviewing a guy in San Antonio who played against Joe, and it just came up that when he played against Joe, there was no way they could block him. He was wrecking the whole game for him. And the tackle said, we got to get this guy out of here. Mm-hmm. And so they looked up, so they were talking to Joe, made him mad, and they looked up, and Joe was in the huddle, and they threw Joe out of the game. And when we were interviewing Joe, he goes, yeah, I got thrown out of a lot of games when I was in high school.
Joe Green never had water at practice, never had water during a game. He never had a roof over his head. When he was at Temple Dunbar, they let the Dunbar use the stadium. They wouldn't let them dress in the locker rooms because they were black. So they had to be in the end zone pregame, halftime, and sometimes it's raining and lightning. And Rob and Mark Burns, the director, did a great reenactment with that. Tell them about that reenactment.
There is such thing as a rain machine. And when Mark told me about this, he goes, well, what I can do, I can build a rain machine, and we can have the young man that's going to play Joe stand under the rain machine. I thought, what is he talking about? So we get out, thank you to Houston ISD, who's been very helpful in this project. But we get out there, and sure enough, Mark has a rain machine set up against the wall, and our guy walks underneath there, and it's raining. And when you watch the film, you're going to think he was in Hurricane Carla.
Oh, that's a moment. I can visualize it already.
And you hear Joe, his voiceover, telling what he went through at Temple Dunbar. One of the most interesting stories, and we've been all over Texas. We didn't do any Zooms. We interviewed everybody in person. We've been to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. They want to have a premiere, the Texas Sports Hall of Fame in Waco, LBJ Library, maybe the Bush Library, all want to have a preview of this. But the first integrated state championship team was 1960 Corpus Christi Miller. That school district integrated when they were supposed to. Most of the rest of Texas and the South did not. And so their 1960 team won a state championship led by great running back Johnny Rowland, spent 35 years in the NFL. And his coach, 97 years old, lives in Lubbock. We went to Lubbock. He's in better shape than I am, Pete Regas, and he told us the toughest game wasn't a championship game victory over Wichita Falls, but the semifinal victory over Port Arthur Jefferson, and the best player they went against, Jimmy Johnson. So Rob calls Jimmy, told how we got Jimmy.
The first thing I did was call Johnny Rowland. I said, J-Roll, you never told me about you playing against Jimmy Johnson. He said, well, you never asked me about it. And so we called Jimmy, and I said, Coach, we'd like to come down there and interview you, and we want to talk about the game against Corpus Christi Miller. Well, he remembered Johnny Rowland. Of course, Johnny Rowland played professional football for a long time and also coached. And he said, well, guys, I just don't know if I remember anything about that game. That's a long time ago, but if y'all want to come down, come on down. So we went down there. He couldn't have been a better host. He took such good care of us. Has a beautiful place down there in Key Largo. And when we sat him down, I think he knew every play. I think he knew every tackle. He went into detail about the game. He talked about it was pouring down rain. They played in Corpus Christi that night. And even Johnny will tell you, if they had played in Port Arthur and the weather would have been good, it might not have come out that way. But they won 6-0. Jimmy talked about the play that Johnny scored on to win the ball game. So when we left, we said, Coach, I think you remembered a lot more than you thought you were going to.
We are speaking with Rob Lynch and John McClain in their new documentary, The PVIL Story, Separate but Equal. I have to put in that question mark at the end. I'm curious, John, how much of this was pulling together stories you had heard and knew and wanted to share, and how much did you learn along this path?
I probably learned 99%. I grew up in Waco, and I went to college at Baylor, been here my whole life, and I knew that there was a PVIL, but I never paid any attention to it. I didn't have any reason to. When I worked at the Waco Tribune-Herald while I was going to Baylor before I came to the Chronicle, we never covered the two black high schools there. And now that I look back, I'm embarrassed about it. And I knew the players, but the stories, I had no idea what these guys went through. And as Rob lined them up, and Rob got, so you do a documentary, and we've got 4 parts, and you have to have great pictures and graphics. And there's one in particular about Mansfield High School that when he sent it to me, it just blew me away. Tell him about that.
When integration was supposed to take place in Texas, the governor at the time, Governor Shivers, was opposed to it, and a lot, as most politicians were. Like John said, down around the Corpus area, some of the military bases, they integrated when they were supposed to. But in Mansfield, when the kids came to Mansfield to go to school, there was a protest of the Mansfield people, and hanging in effigy was dummies of the black students hanging from the school, hanging from the flagpole. And I guess the most interesting thing is the governor sent people out not to protect those people that were enrolling in school, but to protect the people that were hanging the dummies in effigy. And the principal left with the Texas Rangers there at the school, left the dummies hanging up there for a long time. He said, I didn't put them up there, so I'm not taking them down. So that is in the film as well.
Those dummies are dressed, and they got nooses hanging around their necks above the entrance of the school to try to deter the black students from coming there. And I saw that, and I thought, at first I thought it was a real person. That's how real the dummies were. And it just makes you sick to think about that.
Yeah. I'm curious, Rob, your thoughts on this being a civil rights human story as opposed to a sports story you're telling.
It's very much a civil rights story. We interviewed Mark Updegrove from the LBJ Library, who went into details about Thurgood Marshall, how he became on the Supreme Court. How Thurgood Marshall was very instrumental in the Brown versus Education. So I think we've had history people call us, and they want us to come show the film to their history classes, and they say, I can't get them to pay attention when I'm telling them about history, but if I tell them there's football players involved in this thing, they're going to pay attention. And I think it's probably is a much civil rights story, history story, as it is a football story. I mean, it's sometimes you just get choked up thinking about what we've seen and what we've discovered. And this will be the first cut, the first time we do it. Hopefully by June 19th, we will have an extended version that we will be able to go into more detail with some of these interviews, because some of these interviews are just truly fascinating, and we can't get them all into an 84-minute film right now.
So it's a film, not a series, correct?
It's both.
It's both.
We've got
A
4 for
docuseries.
streaming. We've got this 84-minute, and we're hoping once we'll have our own website, we can put anything on there. I wish they'd run every interview that we did, because those people were fascinating.
Yeah.
Listening to you talk, Rob, about how you felt, was there one scene or one story, this is for both of you, that just gave you a gut punch and made you go, oh, my God?
I think what gave me gut punches is Joe Green, Kenny Houston, Johnny Rowland. These weren't just guys I knew that played football. These are friends. These are friends of mine. Kenny's wife is a great friend of my wife. Joe's wife's a great friend of my wife's. And to hear these stories, and like, that's my friend that had to go through this. Mm-hmm. And it hurts when they're doing that.
A cautionary tale. Eldridge Dickey from Booker T. Washington High School was the greatest PVIL quarterback. He left Texas because black guy couldn't go in the Southwest Conference. Jerry Levias, who's a big part of our documentary, he was the first scholarship black athlete in the Southwest Conference at SMU. So Eldridge Dickey went to Tennessee State in Nashville, and he threw the ball all over the place. He was ambidextrous, and he was the first black quarterback drafted in the first round in 1968. And by the Oakland Raiders. Al Davis, the champion of black head coaches, black players, he drafted him. And everybody thought, all the black players we talked to all over the country said they thought Eldridge Dickey would show the white owners, general managers, and coaches that a black man could play quarterback in the National Football League. But they moved him to receiver as soon as he got there, and turned out the only reason they drafted him in the first round was to keep him away from their chief rival, Hank Stram of the Kansas City Chiefs, who they found out was secretly scouting him. And it broke his spirit, and it was terrible. And when Alphonse Dodson, who was his teammate at Oakland, were interviewing him, he got emotional. And said, "Why are you getting emotional about Eldridge Dickey?" He said, "Because we thought he was going to be the one."
Yeah. Got a question. Given our current climate and how we look at history and how we are handling it, is this the perfect time to release this documentary?
I think that's right. But I guess my dad was a coach, and we moved to a small town where he was a high school coach. And this was back in the 70s, and I'm not going to name the town because I love that town. But when we went there, he played a black quarterback. And I can remember the things the townspeople would say about my dad because he was playing a black quarterback. So it was bad then, and we would have, like, my friends would come spend the night at our house, and so we would call and say, "Hey, aren't you coming over?" And they go, "No, I talked to my parents," and they wouldn't. I can't come over tonight. Well, I didn't know why, but my black friends that were spending the night, they did. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if there was a perfect time, but I would have to say with the climate we're in right now, it couldn't be better. I know that.
It's always a great time for a great story, no matter when it is. And this one, it's about perseverance. It's about strength. It's about people overcoming things that most of us never would have even dreamed about. And it's about politics. It's about race. It's about football. And it transcends sports.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think you couldn't pick a better time to have something like this that will touch so many people.
And it's called the PVIL Story, Separate but Equal. And I say that right now because I want to quickly change topics really fast while we have you here. Thoughts on the Texans division playoff game against the Patriots on Sunday?
It blows me away to think on Saturday, if the Buffalo Bills win at Denver, which they're very capable of doing, and the Texans upset the Patriots, We in Houston will be hosting the AFC Championship game for the first time in history. We have not had a team in the AFC Championship game since the Oilers in 1979 during the Love You Blue era. And the Texans, they play great defense. Their offense is pretty mediocre. Their special teams are great. Can they do it? Yes. And I thought of them winning, even if they go to Denver. Denver beat them by 3 on a field goal with no time left during this season, but the thought that they could go to the championship game and be one step short of the Super Bowl. I've always wanted to live long enough to cover a Super Bowl here. This is my 50th year covering football here, and I'm thinking I might actually see it.
I feel it.
Yeah.
Do you think the weather's going to be a factor for our team?
I think right now it's 30. Well, you know, I can change. It's supposed to be 37, 20% chance of snow. Snow doesn't bother teams. Wind bothers teams. And all these Patriots are young. Drake May, their quarterback, it's his second year. He grew up in North Carolina. How many times has he played in terrible weather?
Yeah. You know what? It's been great having you guys here. I wish I had another 10 minutes, maybe 20 with you, but congratulations on the project. I think it's going to be a winner. John McClain is a longtime football journalist and host of the documentary The PVIL Story, Separate but Equal, and Rob Lynch is the producer of the documentary. John and Rob, again, thank you for being here. We appreciate
you for having us.
Thank you guys for having us, and shout out to the director, Mark Burns, and our executive producer, Scott Nethery.
All right. Well, coming up, our last minute discussion is on what plans we have. So stay with us on Hello Houston.
It's not just your car. It's the one that brought your kids home from school, took you cross country, held memories, laughter, even a few breakdowns. When it's time to let go, give your car a new purpose. Donate it and turn memories into meaningful support for this station. Plus, you'll enjoy free and easy pickup, potential tax benefits, and a simple donation process. Your gift supports the programs you and your family love. Donate today and help keep public media strong. Call or donate online.
Good times. Laughing, splashing, swimming, diving. You can play in the water. But never forget, the water does not play. On the next Snap Judgment, you're going to get wet because Snap Judgment proudly presents Waterworld. Snap Judgment, storytelling with the beat. Do not miss it.
You can hear that tomorrow night at 8 p.m.
This week on This American Life, 10 months after the fall of the brutal dictatorship in Syria, a group of Syrian comedians decides to go on a national tour. But it is really not clear what they can say with their newfound freedom, or it's still going to get them in serious trouble.
I don't think something bad will happen to us. Nobody cares about us. I'm not George Clooney. It's a few people telling some jokes. Let them.
Turns out, some people don't want to let them. That's this week.
This American Life, Saturday at 11 a.m. Support comes from the Museum of Fine Arts Houston, presenting Art and Life in Imperial Rome, Trajan and His Times, exploring the impact Emperor Trajan had on art and culture during his reign. Now on view, tickets at mfah.org. Tonight on Houston Public Media TV8, take a voyage through the history of funk music, from its early jazz roots to the explosion of 70s urban funk and beyond. Independent Lens presents We Want the Funk, tonight at 8 on TV8.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on today's topics, call or text 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manouse and guest host Doris Childress.
You know what I'm thinking? We just did a segment on sports, so it's only right that I mention Eurovision is happening now, and they're already doing 2 songs. 2 countries have picked their songs already. This weekend there'll be a 3rd qualifier. That's all I'm saying. I'm just giving equal time. Little Eurovision, little sports.
Okay.
It's a sporting competition to me.
It is.
I watched a draw over the week where they picked which countries were going to compete in which semifinal, and I thought to myself, this must be what it's like when they have like drafts and stuff, and people get excited about that.
I watched the draft, the actual draft with Robert, and and that is an exciting television event.
Robert, your husband. For
Yes,
people who
Robert,
don't know who you're
Robert,
talking
my
about.
husband. You know, I talk like you guys know us, and you're hanging out with us all the time. But
Well, funny thing about Robert, we are going to talk about coming up on Monday is MLK Day, and Robert got to be a Grand Marshal in one of the parades.
yes, it was a couple of years back, maybe 6 years ago. He got a chance to ride in the car, and he brought our girls along with us, and so on and so forth. And you know, we're just waving and saying hello, and people are looking like, "Who are you?" You know. But
Well, and what I
it
think
was
is
fun.
funny is here you are on radio after a distinguished television career, many awards and all that, and who's the Grand Marshal? Not you.
Not me.
Your husband.
I don't get it. Robert gets the
Explain
props.
who your husband is so people
Well,
know.
he's Dr. Robert Childress. He's a longtime pastor here in the city at Covenant Glen Church, and he's a great guy.
Great community leader, too.
And he does a lot
good
of
work.
outreach, a lot of 501c3s, really into kids and helping them out.
Well, we made it to the end of the show, and so as always on Friday, we like to talk about what's coming up and last-minute plans that are coming up, and we've already kind of hinted at it. Monday, of course, is MLK Day. Interesting thing about that, and we've talked about this on the show a little bit, I'm curious your thoughts on it. This year, the MLK Parade is the Unity Parade. They brought both parades together so we don't have dueling parades. What do you think?
I'm glad. I don't have to split my time from uptown to downtown. I just think it looks good, and it's the joint effort. You'll get a better crowd, too.
Right.
And it's about celebrating the man of service and civil rights. So unified, I think it kind of speaks to who we're celebrating.
Yeah, we were talking not too long ago about Pride Parade, and a couple of years ago they split off. They had two different parades.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and they were like a weekend apart, and it was like, what are we doing? You know what? I bring that up to say, so they're back together as one parade, but the big thing there is they're going to do it at the beginning of June this year instead of over Pride
soccer,
Week,
right?
because of the World Cup. So
Okay.
things make shifts. What else is
Do
going
you think
on?
it'll impact? I'm not to get away from what's going on. Will it impact the attendance by moving it up?
There has always been talk about wanting to move that parade.
Okay.
MLK Parade, you want to put on MLK Day.
Oh, no, that's gonna
that
be-
makes
yeah.
sense. When you get something like Pride, I've been a traditionalist. I want it to coincide with Stonewall, which is the reason that there is a Pride Parade and all of that. But, you know, it's so hot at that point in June. So maybe a little earlier in June, it'll be a little cooler, a little bit cooler.
We can
Some
deal
people
with
want to
that.
move it to October. I'm like, no, you got to keep it in Pride Month. So that's where I'm at.
Well, it is a busy month for MLK activities because we have the MLK Festival Family Fun Day at Tranquility Park. Always bring your kids out to this.
Yeah.
It's fun stuff to do. They get to learn history. They get to engage with other people in the community. And they get to, you know, little arts and crafts and music, a lot of good stuff for them. And then there's
Right, before you leave that, I just want to say, the best thing about it, it's a free event, just like
it
the
is free.
parade.
And we always are looking for free stuff because budgets are tight.
And we want community to be part of community. And you
Yes.
don't want something that blocks a family that wants to go. I remember a while ago, we did a story about a guy who used to put up Christmas lights and a Christmas decoration thing in his home. And people used to say to him, you know, so many thousands of people come through. Why don't you charge a little something? And he said, even if I charge just $1, there will be a family that says, we've got a car full of kids and we can't go because we don't have that money. And I don't ever want to do that. And so I'm always
I love that.
reminded of that. And I think about how that is.
And, you know, we have the observances where there's going to be speeches and gospel at the Rothko Chapel. I love events like that. And you know what I really like? I like seeing those kids do the competition with the speech.
Yeah.
They're always so good. So anything like that, take the kids to that. Little education doesn't hurt anybody.
Right. So it's a big weekend to celebrate MLK. And you know what? Also take a look, learn a little. If you're not familiar with the work that he did, oftentimes figures in history like that become an image of something. But it's good to go back and learn the story behind it and to share it with your children.
Well,
and
you know,
your
it's a
family.
day, well, we call it a weekend of service and observance. So we're going to do a lot of service projects, friends of mine, and like my Girl Scout troop. I'm
Oh.
going to be working with the girls.
You're
on
still
their-
a Girl Scout? I didn't know that.
I am a troop leader. I'm one of our troop leaders. I've been one since the girls were little, and we're going to work on our silver and gold awards.
And you've never hit me up to buy cookies from you.
I ate them.
Well, that's going on. As we mentioned, John O'Hurley will be at Doc's Houston on Saturday night. Ali Wong is going to be here on Saturday as well. Ghostface Killah is going to be at House of Blues. All that's happening on Saturday. A lot going on this weekend.
And then Sunday.
What's Sunday?
You've got the 2026 Match Family Fun Day.
Oh, and that's great.
Another free event.
And it's a way to understand all that goes on at Match Houston, which is a wonderful arts organization or theater center right in Midtown that brings theater to
I hope
folks.
people participate in that because I don't think they understand how important the arts are to kids in developing their critical thinking and just being able to engage with people.
Speaking about that, Beauty and the Beast is going to wrap up its run at the Hobby Center. We had some of them on the show, and
I just need free tickets. I need a box. I need a box. Morgan and I do that all the time.
You know what? The box is so bad because you can only see half the stage. It's great for the audience to see you, but for you to see the show.
You can look down at people and say, I'm in a box.
As Doris plans her looking down on people, we come to the end of another episode of Hello Houston. We'll be back next week. We look forward to having you join us. And don't forget, on the weekends, you can always catch the best of Hello Houston Saturdays at 1, Sundays at 11, right here on News 88.7. Have a great MLK weekend, and we'll see you next week.
See you next time.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Hildebrand MBA at UT Austin's McComb School of Business, offering the Weekend MBA at Houston. Campus visit January 17th.